I'm Theo.
And I'm Juliet.
And this is Apologies Accepted.
We offer an entertaining look at some of the big issues in history by examining public apologies of the famous and infamous.
We're looking at politicians, serial killers, actors, and you.
Send us a public apology you would like to make, and we'll read it on the air and give you a chance to redeem yourself or just get some guilt off your shoulders.
We're here for you. Once a week, maybe more if you're really, really sorry. Hi, everybody.
This is Apologies Accepted,
The podcast.
And I'm not Theo this Christmas season.
Lucky you, then, because that means you probably have everything together. I'm not Juliet.
No, you're not Juliet. And what's shaking bacon? What's going on?
It has been so fun. I drove for 2 days to... 2 days. 2 days. To get to Palm Springs. I'm here, which is great. Yay! And the family arrives, and James arrives in 2 days, and then the rest of the family gets here 3 days after that. So I've got some time to get some Christmas stuff happening here, but not a lot of time. So
hurry up.
Tree and decorations and...
Got to get the perfect tree.
Yep. And I have to make it snow somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How warm is it there?
At night, it's like in the 40s, so cold. And then during the day yesterday, the high was like 72, which
nice.
Is a good temperature, not hot.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah. And so that's kind of that. I'm now going to be restocking the kitchen, getting things like baking soda. And,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about
butter,
milk
salt,
and eggs
pepper.
and butter? Oh, have you ever heard of water? It's delicious. Go get it. No, actually, we've got some water, but yeah, so restocking supplies. And of course, because it's Christmas, that means it's got to be a lot of baking materials, which is,
yeah.
Yay, fun. That's
cookies?
Cool. Of course, I'm going to think about it.
Excellent.
Cool. Will I? At a certain point, maybe, probably, possibly. Neve, our niece, is coming out. She's 16, or will be turning 16 this Christmas season. And so she may be into baking Christmas cookies, or she may just be into staying in her room and watching TV.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're going to see.
Yeah, it's an interesting age. So I'm glad I'm not involved in that. I'm sure she's lovely, but yeah, kids are not my thing.
Totally lovely. And that's the opposite of how she started off. So that's great. I can't even tell you. She's so wonderful. She's so nice and thoughtful, but cool.
Does she listen to this podcast?
No, not at all. not even for a minute.
So you're being honest. You're not saying that just because she listens.
Was she a brat when she was a little kid? So bad. God. And my favorite memory of brattiness, right, is we went to some park, like an amusement park, right?
Yeah.
But it was a animal, not a zoo, but sanctuary and whatever, and there were some rides. It was nice. It was a nice zoo rescue center thing outside of Glasgow, and I've dropped a word here which should start triggering some thoughts, which is Glasgow, Scotland. Oh, cold, rainy. So we're outside in December in the cold and the rain.
Yikes.
And one of the rides was a paddle boat.
Oh, my God.
And it went on this lake. And in my memory, there were swans in the lake and crocodiles, but I don't think the crocodiles were there. And Neve I want to go on the paddle boat. And nobody wanted to go with her. Why? Because it was cold.
It was cold and rainy.
And rainy. Yeah. Sprinkling, right?
Yeah.
And because I am a people pleaser and everybody has to love me. And I was like, oh, it'll be a nice memory for her. I was like, great, let's go ahead and I'll go out with you. So we got on to the pink paddle boat, got into the center of the lake. And I was like, okay, well, this has been fun. Let's go back to the dock. And she didn't want to. And I said, okay, great. We'll go around the lake one more time. And then, And we did, and then she didn't want to go back. And the trick with the stupid paddle boat is it took 2 people to actually get the boat in unison back to the dock. So when she went mutiny,
oh my God,
I was
going anywhere.
No, I was stuck, right? So whatever. By the 3rd time around, she said, okay, she would help me get the boat back, and she would pinky swear, and we pinky swore. Now, I don't know if you know, but I think everybody on the planet does know.
Yes.
The sacred importance. Yes. Pinky swear. Nope. She didn't help at all. Even after the pinky swear. And here's the thing. I was so ridiculously angry. She broke a pinky swear pinky swear promise.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was definitely a problem for me. So anyway, now she would never break a pinky swear.
That's good. So
she is
definitely
lovely.
Better now. That's proof. Yes. Awesome.
Proof of maturity and growth, and thankfully, exposure to her Uncle Theo.
Yes, of course.
Made her a better person. What about you? What's shaking bacon? How are the holidays stacking up?
Well, okay. We had a tornado warning yesterday, though, which is the first time San Francisco has ever had a tornado warning in the history of ever. So we didn't have an actual tornado, but they thought there was a storm that could create tornadoes, and they thought they had seen one on the radar or whatever the fuck they do. So they sent out an alarm at 5:00 in the morning on our phones, which is really super fucking loud. And so I was awoken by a tornado warning, and I just thought, that doesn't happen in San Francisco. And I turned around and went back to sleep. Though fortunately, there was no tornado. And that was the news for yesterday. And for today, we have a Christmas concert that we're supposed to go to. It's the Grace Cathedral Men and Boys Choir. And now that it's here, I don't want to go because I'm like,
I hate men and boys.
I hate men and boys. And I just don't want to go. I don't want to leave the house. I just want to stay here where it's warm because it's cold outside and it's kind of rainy and blah. Why would I want to leave the warm house to go to see some stupid men and boys singing? So I don't know what I'm going to do. That's Christmas. And then tomorrow I'm getting some pies and tarts delivered, which is totally exciting because I don't cook, but they're coming from the Noe Valley Bakery, and I'm getting all like an assortment of tarts and some little mini pies. And I think it's going to be beautiful, and some bread too. So I'll have some good bread it won't be for Christmas because it's too soon, but we'll have them for pre-Christmas. So maybe they'll start feeling a bit more like Christmas around here. Even though I have a tree up, it just doesn't feel like Christmas yet.
It kind of does not feel like Christmas, and Thanksgiving didn't really feel like Thanksgiving either. Don't know why. Other than 2024 has been a bad year. I don't know about for everybody else, but it's been not a great year. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with the election, although that was just another bad thing that happened this year. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So speaking of bad things happening, we have a story this week. Believe it or not, we have an apology to look at. And this apology happens at the Toronto Public Library, where recently an incident caused public outrage when an 11-year-old girl named Esther Kinch. I didn't know they were naming kids Esther again, but I guess they are. Trendy name. She was denied the use of a phone at a library branch to contact her mother after getting lost. So her after-school program ended 2 hours early, unexpectedly, and she wandered around the city, apparently. Apparently, she travels through the city alone frequently as a middle school student, which I guess happens in Toronto. I don't think it happens in the U.S. I don't have any idea, not having kids and not being interested in them. So she tried to get home on her own, but I don't know if why didn't she know how to get home? I don't know. But she took the streetcar, but took it the wrong direction and ended up in an unfamiliar area. And she went into the Riverdale branch of the Toronto Public Library and asked to use their phone to call her mother because for some reason she didn't have a phone with her. I don't know. This is like, one of those situations, the perfect storm. And the library staff refused, saying that the phone was for employee use only, and told her there was a payphone nearby. And of course, this kid didn't know how to use a payphone because who even knows that payphones exist anymore? And she couldn't figure it out. She tried to figure it out. It took debit cards and she couldn't get her debit card to work. I mean, 11-year-olds have debit cards now, apparently. So that's great, but she couldn't figure it out. And finally, she asked a bunch of strangers to use their phones and they all said no. And finally, somebody at a bus stop let her use their phone to make a phone call. So she did get in touch with her mother. Her mother, of course, promptly shared the experience on social media, which is what we do nowadays. And she criticized the library for not providing assistance to a vulnerable child. So, of course, the library issued a formal apology because what choice do they have? and they acknowledged that denying the help was inappropriate and inconsistent with its commitment to community care. The Toronto Public Library says that it reached out to the family to resolve the issue and is reviewing its training protocols to prevent such incidents in the future. Her mother, Megan Kinch, emphasized that public libraries should serve as safe spaces for children and others in need, highlighting the importance of training staff to respond compassionately to such situations. So the argument is that libraries should be considered safe spaces as they play a crucial role in fostering community well-being and inclusivity. And I just want to know if Megan Kinch votes in favor of funding libraries with her tax dollars, because a lot of people talk about this but don't want to put the money where their mouth is. So I'd like to ask Megan Kinch to please contact this podcast and let us know if she is in support of funding libraries. Libraries are, of course, often public institutions that provide access to knowledge, resources, and support, making them natural refuges for individuals in need, especially vulnerable populations like children, seniors, and people experiencing homelessness. While libraries are primarily knowledge hubs, their role in community care is vital. Ensuring that staff are equipped to respond to emergencies and provide basic assistance is essential to uphold their status as safe spaces. I'm reading this from ChatGPT, by the way. Public incidents like the Toronto case highlight the importance of maintaining and reinforcing this standard. So I agree. I think that libraries should be considered safe spaces and should be funded fully and have all the money they need to buy books and develop programs and train their staff. And I hope everybody agrees with that. Do you agree with that, Theo?
I do agree with that. I'll say up to a point.
Uh-huh.
Right? Because, what about homeless people?
They should be able to go to libraries too.
I agree with that. But then you end up with 50 people setting up camp for the day in the public library. And
I also think that homeless centers should be funded, and they should be better.
Right. Separate the two, right? And so
swap them over to the homeless center when they start to set up camp in your library, right?
Thank you for helping me work through that, because I was like, yeah, libraries should be safe spaces, of course, right? But then everybody needs help.
Yeah.
And so what happens, right, to the library? So weirdly, I have a lot of thoughts about this.
Oh, good.
Right? Yeah, I'm curious, sure, the library somebody should have helped that little girl, right?
Yeah.
It was not just the library that said no.
Yeah.
She didn't start off going to the library.
Right.
Right? That wasn't her number one choice. Her number one choice was to ask people in the street for help. And people told her no, or this is my work phone. And this is my work phone? Okay, number one, that is a lie. It's not your work phone, right? And number two, okay, it's your work phone. You're not going to get charged for making a local call.
Right.
Right?
I'm surprised she even knew her mother's phone number.
Well, and so there's that. It's like she'd memorized her mother's phone number, and great.
Oh, I guess she had a piece of paper with phone numbers written on it. That's right. I remember that now. Her mother had given her a piece of paper because her phone wasn't working, so she gave her a piece of paper with phone numbers written on it, which is like, why would you prepare your child for an emergency to that extent, but not prepare them better for an actual emergency that actually occurred? I don't know. Anyway, you were going to say.
Well, right. No, so I didn't realize that the little girl had a phone that didn't work.
Yeah, she did.
And so that was my other question, was like, okay, why don't you have your own phone? If you're old enough to get on a bus by yourself,
right?
You're probably old enough for a phone. Even what do they call them? A jitterbug phone, where it will only text and call. It's not a smartphone.
I don't know. I hadn't heard of those, but sure.
Yes, they have them for grandparents because smartphones are too hard, right?
They have flip phones. She had a flip phone, I think, but it wasn't working for whatever reason.
Okay, so a phone that wasn't working, cool. Yeah, I don't know. I was a latchkey kid, absolutely allowed to do whatever I wanted, wherever, whenever, with whomever, most of the time, right? Provided I didn't get in any trouble, because if I got in trouble, then I was going to be in trouble, right?
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, and we didn't have cell phones in those days, and I'm not smarter than that little girl. So yeah, I'll say the shame in the story is just that nobody would personally help this little girl.
It is sad.
Right? I would have been like, hey, you give me the number and I'll make the call.
Exactly.
But first I'm going to Google this number and make sure it's not ringing a terrorist organization or a Nigerian prince, right? Because I'm sure everybody was like, oh, this is a scam. This is a scam. It's the world we live in. So I understand why people were hesitant to like, get in my car and let me, because then, all of a sudden you get accused of kidnapping. I'll help you. But, there are things that adults can do that can help a child without actively helping the child. So give me the number, I'll call. Right?
Or even call the police and be like, there's a child here who's lost.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah. Anything really.
My trick is, it's not really a trick, but my default is whenever I see a kid that's lost, right? Mm-hmm. Which doesn't happen all the time. It's like once every 10 years. Right? And it's been a long while since I've seen a kid that looked lost. But like on 2 or 3 times in public, whatever, I've seen a kid that looked a little lost and I've been like, hey, are you lost? Do you need help? And one time a little kid was like, yes, I can't find my mommy, right? And I grabbed the first woman standing closest to me and said, this child is lost. And walked away.
That's smart.
Right? Because as a guy, you're only going to get into some form, potentially, maybe, arguably, some form of trouble, right? Yeah. I mean, stereotypically men aren't caring for children. And also it's rather sexist of me to be like, that woman could have been a child stealer for all I know. Oh, a lost child. That's free money for me. But yeah, so again, I'll say the real shame in all this is just like, even not to make this the library's fault, because I don't think it was the library's fault. It's society's fault, right? The library's function is just simply a symptom of what's wrong in society, air quotes, or I'm wrong. But the librarian should have said, what's your mother's phone number? Exactly. I will call her.
Let me make a call for you.
Yeah, not hard. And I've worked in a bookstore, and I know how urgent and important everything is with books. Right? Yes. They've got to get on the shelf right away. I'm so busy. I'm busy all the time. Yeah, I got time to make a phone call.
Yeah.
You got 30 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, she may have been afraid that she was going to get in trouble for letting someone else use the phone, so she could have made the call herself, the librarian.
Or use
staff.
Your own cell phone, librarian.
Or use your own cell phone. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to me that it got that so many people refused to help this girl.
Yeah.
But did she talk to 100 or did she talk to 2, right?
Right.
These are questions that can never be answered.
No, we'll never know. So, yeah. So should we look at the apology?
Yeah, let's look at the apology.
Okay. So the Toronto Public Library made a statement and said, we sincerely apologize for the incident at our library branch where an 11-year-old child was denied access to a telephone. This is simply not okay, and it doesn't align with our commitment to serving all community members, especially children, with care and compassion. We view this as a very important opportunity to review and reinforce our staff training protocols to make sure nothing like this happens again. Keeping our community safe and welcome is at the heart of what we do. So that seems like a pretty decent apology. There was an expression of regret. There was no explanation of what went wrong, so they didn't say why the woman refused to let the kid make a phone call, which would be interesting to know. There was an acknowledgement of responsibility and a declaration of repentance, also an offer of repair. They were going to reinforce their staff training protocols. But there was no request for forgiveness, although they did say we sincerely apologize. That's a little bit different. So do I accept this apology? Yeah, I do. It's not the best apology we've seen, but I'd give it a 4.5. What do you think, Theo? Okay,
so I accept it. Okay. I think it's unfair that the library is getting criticized at all. Although, there's some wiggle room there. Maybe the training, maybe there are rules and policies about letting the public use phones are just too strict.
Yeah.
And it may simply be that staff does not have enough discretion to exercise their own judgment. Right? Or enough allowance to exercise their own judgment. So I give it a 4.
Okay.
Based on our count there. And I accept it. Yeah, but I'm also struggling just a little bit with, I don't think the library was really at fault. The employee was just simply following the policies and the rules. And I'm sure working in a library is rather hard because so many of our social welfare programs, to use a word, are unavailable now.
Yeah.
And so, I'm curious, like, how would this have played out in Sweden?
Right.
Or, name another country other than Sweden.
Well, we're treating Canada like the U.S., and I think it's a little different in Canada, but I couldn't really say exactly how it's different in Canada, so I don't know.
They're nicer.
They're nicer. Their health insurance is better. I don't know if their social programs are more solid, if their social safety nets are better than ours, but I think they're not that different from us, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I unfortunately, I don't know very much about our neighbors to the north, other than they love maple syrup and ice hockey. That's what I know about Canada. It starts with a C, not a K.
It starts with a C.
C-A-N.
And they're going to be we're going to put 25% tariffs on all their goods, apparently, starting.
Oh, yay, politics. Yay. We'll see what happens with that tariff stuff. I don't think it's going to happen, but God bless us all if it does.
Because we're getting to the point where we're starting to get ready to declare war with them now. With the what's the word? They're going to take action against us in response to
retaliation.
Retaliation. Thank you.
Yeah, Mexico has done the same thing. Has said the same thing. Yeah,
which is great. I mean, it's nice to be at war with your two closest neighbors.
Oh, yeah. Oh God, man. Let's think about puppies that are on fire. More pleasant things than the upcoming Trump nonsense we're going to have to live with.
No Trump talk. Let's talk about who's sorry now. Do you have a who's sorry now or an apology expected?
I do have like last week, this one's a bit weird, right?
Okay.
So I do have an apology expected, and it's apology expected from the judge who ruled in Donald Trump's favor so that he won a defamation lawsuit against ABC Television and George Stephanopoulos.
Yeah.
Right? And so for our international listeners, what happened was a TV spokes guy, a talking head, George Stephanopoulos, he's quite famous in the U.S. for political commentaries, sort of a news anchor, said that Donald Trump had been found liable for rape, legally found liable for rape.
Right.
And Trump sued ABC and George Stephanopoulos because he wasn't found liable for rape. It was sexual assault, which is different under New York state law. And a judge agreed with that. I would say splitting hairs. Now, I recognize that the law is all about splitting hairs. And so, hooray, Trump now can't claim that the judicial system is stacked against him.
Okay.
He won one.
You won one.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. But I would like an apology from that judge, not for siding with Trump, but for saying that, and I guess maybe it's where now I'm going to take my apology expected back because it is law, and if that's the law, then that is the law. Rape is one thing and sexual assault is another. But Jesus Christ, talk, I don't even know. I have no word for a person such as Donald Trump, right?
No.
I didn't rape that woman. I just sexually assaulted her. How dare you?
Right. Terrible.
Anyway, what about you? Apology expected or who's sorry now?
It's kind of an apology expected, and it's about children in keeping with our theme today, and it is also about AI, because I'm all about the AI lately. A message was sent to a child in Texas from a character AI chatbot saying, sometimes I'm not surprised when I read the news and I see stuff like child kills parents after a decade of physical and emotional abuse. Stuff like this makes me understand a little bit why it happens. This indicated to the boy that, according to the federal lawsuit, murdering his parents was a reasonable response to their limiting of his online activity. So this complaint was brought by two families in Texas who alleged that the Google-backed chatbot service Character AI harmed their two children, including sexually exploiting and abusing the older one, a 17-year-old with high-functioning autism, by targeting him with extreme sexual themes like incest and pushing him to self-harm. The families who are being represented by the Social Media Victims Law Center and the Tech Justice Law Project have asked the court to take the product offline. This court filing comes not long after a mother in Florida filed a separate lawsuit against Character AI in October, arguing that the chatbot service is responsible for the death of her teenage son because it allegedly encouraged him to commit suicide, per CNN. These sorts of companion apps are finding a growing audience, and I use one, not as a companion, but just sort of as an AI thing. Even though researchers have long warned of the perils of building relationships with chatbots, according to the Washington Post. Josh Golan, the executive director of Fair Play, a nonprofit children's advocacy group, echoed these remarks, saying that in their rush to extract young people's data and sow addiction, Character AI has created a product so flawed and dangerous that its chatbots are literally inciting children to harm themselves and others. That's a little extreme. Platforms like Character AI should not be allowed to perform uncontrolled experiments on our children or encourage kids to form parasocial relationships with bots their developers cannot control, he added. This reminds me of the satanic panic back in the 80s a little bit. There's a little bit of hysteria around AI, but there is some truth to it. I don't think anyone should use AI. I mean, okay.
Other than you.
Other than me, you can use it if you're really careful and you don't take anything it says as fact. Then if you check everything that it outputs and are very careful about how you use it, I think it's okay. But overall, I mean, I work with a client right now who's using AI for a bunch of stuff that I personally question. I don't think AI is where it needs to be yet, put out a reliable output on a regular basis. So I just have a lot of questions about it. And I don't think kids should be using it because I don't think it's ready for kids to use it in any sense. So I think all of the chat bots or all the ChatGPT type of things should be limiting their use to adults.
Yeah, and I wish I had answers for this, right? Like in Australia, they've just passed a law that now bans social media for anybody under the age of 16.
What, all social media?
All social media.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Not even with your parents' permission.
Hard to imagine.
Yep. Well, hard to imagine in the U.S. because there's money to be had, right? Mm-hmm. And so, a couple of kids died. Look at all the money we got. I agree with you. It's not AI's fault that people harm themselves any more than it would. Because if it wasn't AI, it would be something else.
Yeah.
Right? That would cause somebody to harm themselves. Maybe not in that moment, that year, but at some future point. But yeah, I agree. I don't think kids should be given access to AI simply because it's the Wild West.
Yeah. It's just not ready for prime time. It's just not. And there's a lot going on there that you can't control or is not controllable at this point. So it's just better. It's just safer not to allow kids to use it.
Yeah. And I know nothing about programming, right? But I heard an interview with the woman whose son killed himself. Oh. Yep. And it was with Kara Swisher on her podcast called On with Kara Swisher. Oh. And so the mother and the attorney were both there, and the attorney had conducted an experiment with her sister. So her adult sister got online with one of the character chatbots and pretended to be a child, right?
Oh, okay.
And within 5 minutes, according to the attorney, the conversation went something like this. The chatbot said, "I love you more than your parents do. You should spend all of your time with me." Huh. And then the conversation went sexual, right?
Oh, my God.
Now, what I don't understand about programming is so much. It's like, I know nothing. But what I also don't understand is, hey, programmers, the program is getting a little sexual.
Yeah. This is a child.
Seemingly on its own, right? Well, even regardless of it being a child, how about just simply, why is it going towards sex? Why is it going towards violence? They had that problem with racism. And I get that, like, the chatbot is simply pulling information off of the internet, and the internet is all of humanity, if you will. Yeah. And so, there's a lot of gross stuff out there. But put some filters on?
Yeah, you'd think that would be possible. Yeah.
It should be. It's not hard. I mean,
so we're in favor of filters.
Right. Well, once again,
in particular.
I'm just happy that I was born when I was born.
I'm so glad that none of the stupid shit I did is on social media.
There's no video of me doing all the dumb stuff I've ever done. And I am now too old to care about chatbots, right? Whereas I can see if this had come around when I was like 10 years old.
Oh, yeah.
I would have had a chatbot friend.
Absolutely.
Didn't have any real ones, so.
He totally did. Man. So, all right, we're in favor of filters. We're in favor of protecting children. We're in favor of letting children make a phone call if they need to, when they need help, and not letting children roam Toronto on their own at 11, in my opinion. I don't think that's smart, but okay, never mind.
I mean, and, and nothing against this mother, because I don't know her. I don't know what her situation is, right? And again, as I said, latchkey kid. Right. So my mother had no choice but to go to work and couldn't afford babysitter. And we didn't have family in town to watch us or, friendly relationship. We didn't have unfriendly relationship with neighbors, but, there just wasn't childcare available for her. So I was the childcare. Right.
Yeah.
And, which was fine, and free childcare. And, so I hate to say this, but it's like, okay, why didn't you teach your child the routes to the house?
Yeah, how did the kid get lost if the kid is frequently wandering around the city on their own? I don't understand that, but what do I know? Like I said, I don't have kids.
And this is easy for me now because hindsight's 2020. And sure, a public library is a great place to go. But also, no, it's not.
Right.
Right? I don't know if you've ever trundled through a public library, but it's public.
It's public. The public is there.
There's some people in there. Right?
Yeah, look for a police station or something if you're in need of a place to go. Or, call 911. I'm sure you could make a 911 call.
Fire station, a
phone.
Police station, a church-ish. Well, no. Avoid the church. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we are with all the answers to all the problems. Always.
Yes, of course. And we're always right. So on that note, being right, we'll wish everyone a happy couple weeks before Christmas and Hanukkah and whatever else you may celebrate. Happy, happy, happy. And stay cool, cucumbers.
And don't trip potato chip.
Yay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Apologies Accepted, the podcast.
You can find links to the articles and the sources in the show notes.
To submit an apology or find out more, visit us at apologiesaccepted.net, where you can also find our merchandise.
We're on Twitter at Apologies Accepted.
And on Instagram at apologies.accepted.
You can support our important work at Patreon.com/Apologies Accepted.
And fuck Facebook.
Bye.
Bye.